I obviously didn't play on Saturday, so I'm probably not the best person to ask about this, but I think, the guys that make the argument that everyone plays the same golf course, I don't think that was true on Saturday. The guys that went out in the morning and shot 66, like Finau and Berger, played themselves into the final group. And the guys in the afternoon had to tough it out whenever the conditions, got more than borderline tricky. I mean, it was a bit of a lottery at times. So I definitely fall into the first camp. I thought it was too tricked out. I think it was too contrived. They tried to set up golf courses, that I don't think they necessarily want to catch us out, but they're trying to dictate what's happened to, for the winning score to be a certain number. And I think it's too tough to do that, especially in golf when the conditions can change so quickly. The weather conditions, the wind can get up. They might get something that they don't expect. So I think, I don't think it's that. I don't think it's that tough to set up a hard but fair golf course, and it just doesn't seem like they can find that balance.
Rory McIlroy with us here on the Will Cain Show on behalf of Travelers Championship, which takes place this weekend at TPC River Highlands. But Rory, you're right. You didn't make the cut. You had a rough start, but you did come home pretty well on Friday afternoon. So how are you feeling today with going into this weekend about your game?
Yeah, I mean, look, I felt on Thursday was one of the toughest days I've had to play, in my career. I find myself 10 over through 11 holes, and there hasn't been many times where I've had a score like that. So it was tough. I mean, Friday I played okay. I shot 70. Obviously we got the better side of the draw. Friday afternoon was pretty benign, and a few of the guys went low. So I think it makes what Dustin Johnson did over those first 2 days on the other side of the draw even more impressive. But I feel, look, my game feels good. As I said, I don't feel like I played that badly, even though the score suggested that, I did. And I feel good. The Travelers here and the golf course at TPC River Highlands it's a nice course to come back from a US Open. You can get it going. You can shoot some low numbers. You can get it going, and post a few scores in the 60s, which is, you're not really saying that about a US Open. So I think that's why they've been able to get such a good field the last few years, is because, guys want to come back to a golf course pretty much straight away after, having to tough it out for a week and sort of get back to familiar surroundings and, get some red numbers going again. And I guess, feel good about themselves again.
Roy, I think that's a good place to ask you about this then, I guess contrasting what the course will be like this weekend in Connecticut versus last week in Long Island. And look, man, I promise, I don't want to be negative, but I want to ask you about these two comments from Paul McGinley, Ryder Cup captain in 2016, fellow Irishman, I believe. He's talking about your game, and I think it's a compliment, right? In the end, it's a compliment because so much is expected of you because of how great you are, but it's trying to analyze why we haven't seen the major championships in quite some time. And one of the two thoughts that he gave is, right now, Rory is playing really well in great conditions, and he's at threat of looking like a guy who's not playing well in tough conditions. What do you say about that?
Yeah, I mean, look, if you take last week as an example of that, then obviously I would agree. I mean, but I think, if you look at, I think as well, you have to look at the season as a whole, and I've got one win this year at Bay Hill, and the final round, the conditions there, I wouldn't say they were easy. I mean, it was good weather, but the greens were firm. There was a little bit of wind, and I was able to play well there. So, look, I get that. I get, I've had one chance this year to win a major, and I didn't play great in the final group. And then the US Open, this is the third year in a row I've missed the cut at the US Open. Obviously, conditions were pretty tough at Oakmont, a little bit different at Erin Hills last year. And then obviously this year. So I think it's a different type of golf that you need to play at the US Open, and obviously the Open that I won was played on a very soft golf course and something that's more suited to my game. But look, if I want to have a chance to win US Opens in the future, I'm going to have to adapt to the conditions. And I haven't. There's been times where I've played okay in wind, and there's times where I've struggled in tough conditions like last week. So I think if I was probably a little more comfortable with my golf game last week and my golf swing, I might have had a better chance to shoot a decent score on Thursday. And and it wouldn't have put me so much behind the 8 ball on Friday and having to go out and shoot under par to make the cut. So, but every week's not going to be like that, but at least, I agree. I need to be more prepared when the conditions are going to be like that, because, to get off to the start that I did last week, you're basically shooting yourself out of the tournament on the first day, which is not what you want.
I have to ask you before I let you go. You weren't playing on Saturday like you said earlier, but I'm sure you saw, and nobody is unaware of what went down with Phil Mickelson. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that moment from Phil.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's, being out there and I know that there's a lot of guys that are frustrated with the setup and with the USGA and all that sort of stuff. And, I can see, with Phil, it's the one that he hasn't won. He feels like it's a tricked up setup, and it got to him. It's gotten to me before. I mightn't go to the same lengths that he did to sort of make a statement about it, but I thought, being within that group of players, I mean, I thought there was a bit of an overreaction to it. I don't think there was a lot of negativity around it, and Phil's made a disgrace of the game and this and that, and I don't buy that. I mean, he got frustrated, he did something that he probably shouldn't have done, but it's not as if he tried to cheat, it's not as if he tried to get one over on the field or anything. So I think there was a massive reaction to someone that just lost his cool in the heat of the moment.